Welcome to my channel where we cover the lore of video games. We cover all kinds from the mainstream to the indie, so I hope you enjoy your stay, and welcome to the Chronicler of Lore. There's been reports of a blasphemy wandering around in Alamigo. They've sent out soldiers to find the thing and deal with it, but since blasphemies aren't exactly pushovers, the Alamigans are expecting a lot of people to get hurt. Unfortunately, most of their healers have been stationed in other places, so they're hoping to get some help from skilled healers from outside of their borders, and the number one person on their list is the Warrior of Light. Since she's an accomplished healer and pretty good friends with the people working to restore the nation, she agrees to do just that. So she heads over to talk to a man who she hasn't seen in a while, and that's Rauban. He's happy to see you and he would normally like to hear about all of the weird stuff you've done since you were last together, but there's more important things to worry about at the moment, so that'll have to wait. When the blasphemy first appeared in the city, the guard got most of the people away with only a few injuries, but the blasphemy escaped and they haven't seen it since, which is bad since having one of the creatures around tends to cause other people to transform. A lot of people saw the man change, but no one knew who he was, so that won't really help you all track the thing down. But whatever caused the man to give in to despair and turn is likely to cause more people to do the same, which makes Rauban think that figuring that out will be the best way to go forward. While you're working on stopping people from turning, the ones who do turn have to be put down. Rauban wants you to join the teams that are hunting the things and make sure his men don't die. Of course you'll do it since that's why you're there, and it turns out not long ago a call came in saying that some of the things were spotted outside of Ul'dah. The troops have dealt with them already, but they need some healing, so you head out there to get to work. The Alamigans have a serious shortage of healers, so having you along to fix people up is a serious help. Once you've made sure the soldiers won't bleed out, you meet up with Rauban, who's working with an old friend of yours who you haven't seen in a while, Endwalker. He's still paralyzed, but that hasn't stopped him from working with a new group of do-gooders, which is why he's out in Alamigo in the first place. But before he could get started with his own mission, the whole blasphemy thing started. The old man Ragnfrid saw some of the people who had changed into monsters, and they were some of the very people that he was trying to help. After Lisa's meeting in the royal palace where she started working on bringing the people of Alamigo together, things started to improve in the area, but a lot of people were still struggling to rebuild their lives after everything that had happened. So Ragnfrid had started a group called the Silver Griffins, who would work to help the Alamigans who had joined the Empire rejoin the rest of Alamigo and start their lives over. The main people they were trying to help were the remaining members of the Skulls and their family. Ragnfrid and pretty much everyone else still hates them for what they did, but after seeing how Fordola protected them from the Primal then submitted to their punishment without fighting back, he started to try and understand what made Fordola and the others join the Empire. The answer was obvious once he thought about it. They had been through the same trauma as every other Alamigan, and they decided that the best way to help make life even a little better for themselves and the people closest to them was to become tools of the Garleans. The Garleans had set up a perfect system to break the Alamigans, one where they could make the people turn on each other to make it even harder for them to ever fight back. It worked, and the effects can still be seen even though Alamigo is free, especially in the people who joined the Empire. Ragnfrid doesn't want this new Alamigo to stay divided, so he formed the Silver Griffins to help the outcasts rejoin society, and Endwalker is a member of the group. He's been acting as a middleman to help make it easier for the former Imperial sympathizers and the other Alamigans to work together. He's good at the job, but the families of the former Skulls have not been willing to work with the Griffins, and they're the ones who've been turning into blasphemies. Rauban can understand why. Being related to traitors who tortured and murdered their own people would put someone in a very negative headspace, which isn't good when being depressed turns you into a not-so-random monster. Endwalker's echo let him see the memories of one of the men who had turned, and it let him know a lot about him. The man had joined the Empire because he had a son, and it was the best way to get what he needed to take care of him. He knew that the people wouldn't like it, but keeping his son fed was more important to him, so he took the abuse and kept on living. His son saw how the people treated his dad, but he couldn't do anything about it until he got older. Once he was old enough, he joined the Skulls to try to return the favor and make his dad's life better. And because the Alamigans hadn't exactly treated his dad well, he followed every brutal order without caring. He died during the revolution, and his dad blamed himself, thinking that he caused his son to end up dead. and those feelings made him transform. His story is not all that unique among the Skull's members, which means a lot more of their family members are at risk of turning if nothing changes soon. Since he's half Garlean and grew up in Alamigo, Arenval knows how they feel firsthand. People treated him like crap too, but that's not a good reason to just roll over and die. He thinks he can make the people see that, and Rauban is perfectly fine with letting his group try, since anything that can stop the transformations is a plus. He wants you to help them when you can, but he's pretty sure that more blasphemies are going to pop up, so your healing skills are going to be needed again soon. In other words, you're about to be very busy. Rauban has his men searching for the blasphemy that started all of the chaos, but so far they haven't seen the thing. There have been quite a few smaller creatures popping up all around Garabania, so his troops have been dealing with them too. To make a not so good situation a little worse, there have been rumors spreading that the new monsters were the Skull's relatives, and that's not necessarily the case. But if people think the Skull's families are turning, they may decide to murder them before they become less squishy, which will make them turn and everything will get worse. These new incidents haven't exactly helped the Silver Griffins with their own mission, so Rauban wants you to go see if you can help the situation a bit. But he's not going to send you out alone. He's partnering you up with Fordola, who's about as happy about this arrangement as you might expect, which is a nice way to say that she hates it. She doesn't like being constantly under guard or wearing the collar that can be used to put her down in a very unpleasant way. But she did agree to it as part of her punishment for fighting against Alamigo. Plus, Arenval points out that having you in her group won't exactly be a bad thing, since she will probably need a healer. You're both being sent to the Griffin's base in Alagana, where a few relatives of the Skull said they'd be willing to talk. Rauban wants the two of you there to keep them safe from either blasphemies or rowdy villagers. That's a job Fordola is more than happy to do, considering her past associations. While she always acts tough and for the most part is not really an act, she is in a worse spot than you might think. She's at more of a risk of turning into a blasphemy than most people, because she has even less control of her echo than you do, and the different visions that she gets on top of her own trauma will not exactly help her mental state that much. So Arenval wants you to try to help her as much as you can, since he can't watch her back anymore. Ragnfrid is happy to see you, but he's not all that excited to see Fordola, even though he still remembers how she helped everyone. She doesn't care how he feels about her. She just wants to know what the mission is so she can get it over with. One of the families that the Griffins were trying to help disappeared. They all lived in the same house, but when one of the Griffins went to check on them, the house had been torn apart by monsters. There were no bodies, so he figures that the family turned, so he wants the two of you to hunt them down before they can hurt anyone. Between the two of you, putting down the creatures isn't all that difficult, and they had a few things with them that proved that they were in fact the family that had gone missing. It's good that you managed to stop them before they could do any damage, but when you get back to the camp, a man whose brother had been a Skull sees Fordola. He freaks out and transforms right in the middle of everyone. As he changes, Fordola's echo hits her, and the experience is way more painful than yours. The new monster attacks a child, but Fordola takes the hit to save her. Even though the child's mother watches Fordola save her kid's life, she doesn't want the woman anywhere near her daughter. Fordola doesn't argue, she just leaves, and you go after her so you can do your job and heal her because she needs it. She argues with you because that's what she does, but she finally lets you heal her. The way the woman acted toward her reminded her that she can never undo all of the things that she's done, and there's no way that anyone will ever forgive her for joining the Garleans and killing so many of her own people. She hadn't liked what she was doing, but it did become easier after a while. Easier to do, but not easier to live with. And while she tries to act like it doesn't bother her all that much, the way she really feels about her situation reveals itself when she starts to turn into a blasphemy. The Warrior of Light helps her calm down and stop the transformation, but she lets you know that what pushed her over the edge was seeing the man's memories just as he turned. She was the entire reason that he had turned, because she had been the one to kill his brother. She thinks she's finally gotten herself under control, but in a very un-Fordola-like moment, she asks you to wait with her for a while, something you're more than willing to do. While you wait, she actually opens up to you a bit, sharing some thoughts that she's never told to anyone else. She wonders if she had been born somewhere else during a different time, would she have still turned into a monster? Was she just a defective person, or was she a victim of circumstance? Either way, she thinks the world would have been better off if she had never been born, because what she did with her life was make everyone else miserable, even her own friends. While she can't make everything right, the one thing she can do is kill the blasphemy, which is only right since she is partially responsible for creating the thing. So the two of you head back to Rauban to see if they've had any luck tracking it down. After you let Rauban know that Fordola nearly transformed, he makes a note of it so he can watch out for her. But other than that, he's pretty happy about how your mission went, even though it did prove that the people who have a connection to the skulls have a higher risk of turning into blasphemies. Not all of their family members stayed in Alamigo, some of them moved to Ul'dah. It goes without saying that if they turn in Ul'dah, things will be very bad, so Ra-Ban plans on working with the Immortal Flames to find the refugees and help them out. He also plans on heading over there to meet with the Sultana, and once he's prepped, he wants you to come with him. It doesn't take long for the Sultana to set up a time to meet with him. His people still haven't found the blasphemy, but whatever it's doing likely matches the types of things that the man had done in life, so once someone figures out who he was, that'll make it easier to track him down. Since the skulls are the ones who are at the most risk of turning, and that includes Fordola, Arnval thinks keeping her out of things for a while might be for the best, but it's highly unlikely that she would agree to that. Arnval wishes that he could still walk so he could take over her duties until things were sorted out. But even if his legs had worked, he wouldn't have had time for that, since Ra-Ban wants him to come with him to meet the Sultana. He thinks talking to her will help both of them out in the future. Arnval doubts that he has anything that he can teach to someone as powerful as Nanamo, but he's still willing to go with you to Ul'dah. When you get there, Papashan lets you all know that Nanamo has decided to do her whole sneak around the city thing as her alter ego. And of course she didn't tell Papashan about her little trip, which is dumb because Ul'dah is dangerous, and no matter how she disguises herself, it wouldn't be hard for someone to pick her out of a crowd. Granted, Lalafell only have like 4 different faces, so she could blend in a little bit. Either way, there are blasphemies and other things running around too, so you need to find her before something eats her. Papashan's pretty sure that's why Nanamo is walking around the city in the first place. She wants to see how her people are doing. That's noble, but it's dangerous, and since Ra-Ban has had to track her down quite a bit, he takes the Warrior of Light and goes on a hunt for her. He's not as good at finding the woman as he claimed, but after a little bit of hunting around, you find her in Pearl Lane, which is by far the most dangerous part of the city. Nanamo's surprised to see the two of you since the time for your meeting hasn't exactly popped up yet. But she's not mad that Ra-Ban had immediately started acting like her bodyguard again when he thought she was in trouble. Granted, she's not about to ride on his shoulder again because that was always weird. She had wanted to see how the people were doing so she could be better prepared for your meeting, and she managed to finish her information gathering before the two of you showed up. So after she changes into her normal clothes, you all get your meeting underway. Arnval's uncomfortable meeting royalty since he's just a soldier, but the fact that he came with Ra-Ban makes him rank pretty high as far as Nanamo's concerned. And since he's been working with people in need in Alamigo, that scored him some points too. She's been told a bit about why you're there, and she wants any information you have about the blasphemy in Alamigo and its victims. After Ra-Ban tells her everything, she understands why you need to find all of the Skulls members' families who came to the city. She's been helping the Alamigan refugees in her city already, so giving them a little bit of extra attention won't be too hard, especially if it keeps a blasphemy from showing up inside of her walls. As for the people who have the worst chance of turning, she thinks the best way to help them is to talk to them. Everyone's experienced different trials in life, but with a little willpower and support, just about anything can be overcome. And since she's gotten better at working with the people who control most of the money in the city, she has the support to help keep the Alamegans in the city from feeling emotionally drained. Trying to forget about their past isn't the solution. What the people have to do is come to terms with what they've done and move forward. And Arnval thinks that the best way to do that is to hold a remembrance ceremony for everyone who died during the war. It doesn't matter what side they fought for. Everyone will get to be put to rest, and every Alamegan will get to celebrate their fallen loved ones and move on. Ra-Ban thinks it's a nice thought, but it's not something that'll be easy to pull off. Bringing people together who don't trust each other is not the best way to promote peace. It could end very bad, but it's worth a shot as long as the people aren't forced to show up. As long as it's optional, he'll give Arnval all of the support he needs to get everything underway. He appreciates that, but he wants to get a bit of advice from Nanamo on how to deal with people since he still doesn't think he's good at it. She's okay with that because she wanted to talk to him too. So since you're no longer needed, you and Ra-Ban head back to Alamigo. While Arnval is planning his not-so-little event, there's still a lot of monsters and missing Skull's family members to find. The good news is Ragnfrid has gotten the general public to help with tracking them down. Even though they still hate the Skulls, they've gotten a little better when it comes to working with the Silver Griffins and their mission. As for Arnval's ceremony, he plans on setting up a meeting between the different community leaders to iron out all the details, and he wants you to help hand out some invitations. He only needs you to deliver 2 of them, one to Miraz Noon and the other to Sarisha. He expects them both to refuse to show up since they had a lot of bad run-ins with the Skulls, but he hopes that they'll realize that putting the past behind them is the best thing for everyone, and he thinks that you being the one to bring the letters will help them lean more in favor of showing up. He wasn't wrong about that. Even though Miraz and Sarisha of the Anata do agree to show up to the meeting, that doesn't mean they're agreeing to do the event, but they will at least hear Arnvald out. Of course he wants you there for that too, so you head to the royal palace for a meeting with a lot of very unhappy people. The people do not like the idea of honoring traitors at their remembrance ceremony, but after a nice speech from Raubahn and Arnvald, they realize that everyone did stuff that they didn't like to survive under the Empire. And while what the Skulls did was worse by a pretty large margin, holding grudges won't help them or their nation recover. Since they all want Alamigo to thrive, they agree to do the ceremony. With them agreeing to attend, the rest of the people will be easy to get on board, which will help keep more people from turning. The day is turning out to be better than they expected, because the woman whose daughter Fordola saved realized that she had been kind of a jerk, and wants to thank Fordola personally. Raubahn is a little unsure about whether he should let her go or not, because Fordola can be a bit of a, let's just say, not a nice person. But he's gonna think about it and he'll let you know what happens. When you get back, you find out that something went bad. Fordola went to meet with the women so they could thank her, but when she came back she was acting really weird. Then not long after that she ran away. Raubahn's gone to Alagana with Arnvald to see if the pair have any idea about where the woman might have run off to, so you go over there to meet him. When you find him, he's both upset and a little confused. Fordola's been doing a lot to earn his trust, so her running off is strange, especially since she still has on a collar that he can use to kill her with a single command. She knows this, which makes him think that she has to have a good reason for running off. That's why he decided to talk to Clarel and her daughter Lily before deciding to send Fordola to the upper room. The conversation they'd had with Fordola went pretty much like most conversations with the woman go. They talked and she just stared at them like she wanted to stab them. But it got weird when Clarel had mentioned the blasphemy. Fordola had looked at Lily, then started screaming like Lalafell were dancing on her brain, which means her messed up echo had shown her some of Lily's memories. Arnvald wants to know if the girl can remember what she was thinking about when Fordola had freaked out, and she actually does. She was thinking about a man who she had seen in the city. Turns out Lily had come face to face with the man who had turned into the original blasphemy, which means Fordola had seen him too since she saw the girl's memories, and she recognized him. She had said the name Charlotte while she was having her vision, but neither Raubahn or Arnvald know the guy. But you have a name that Ragnfrid and his silver griffins probably know, so you go hunt the man down. Charlotte was a name that the old man had heard recently. He had an older brother named Ansford who was in the Skulls, and he's got an uncle that's been trying to track him down. The man is working in the Sleeping Stones at that moment, and since Ragnfrid was about to take the man something to eat, you all head off to see if he knows how Fordola and Charlotte are connected. It turns out that Charlotte knew Fordola very well. His family had sworn to Garlemald so they could get citizenship, and that had made the other Alamegans hate them so their lives sucked. That made Ansford and most of their friend group join the army and become the Skulls. That little friend group included Fordola. Charlotte hadn't joined up, but he always felt bad about not being able to have his friends back. He blamed himself for not being able to save them, and that's likely what made him turn, even though none of you tell his uncle what happened to him. There's no point in messing up the man's day, but at least now you know where Fordola went. Her friend turned into a monster, and she feels like it's her job to put him down, or die trying. Raubah's actually worried about Fordola, so along with sending some of his soldiers to help the Silver Griffins find out more about Charlotte's background, he's got Monago and her people out trying to track the woman down so they can help her with her hunt. Hopefully they find her before she decides to go one-on-one with the blasphemy. With so many people out looking, it doesn't take long for Raubahn to get a call from Monago saying that she's found Fordola and the creature. Fordola calls you over the link pearl and she tells you where they are because she has a favor to ask. She wants you to help her put the creature down. Charlotte was a good man and he never wanted to hurt anyone, so leaving him like he is would be cruel. The only problem is she doesn't think she can beat him alone, so she needs your help. Of course you're gonna come, but during the call the blasphemy starts moving, so you and Raubahn book it over there. Monago and the others hold the thing off until you get there, but some of her people are hurt, so she pulls back and lets the two of you join Fordola, which is the exact moment when the echo takes over. It shows you the day when Fordola and her friends decided to sign up and join the military. All of them except for Charlotte. Even though he was a pacifist, none of his friends made fun of him, but he did blame himself for being weak, and he blamed himself even more for outliving almost all of the others. Fordola doesn't blame him for being a coward, and she honestly thinks she's more of a coward than he is, because while he was a pacifist and refused to fight, She fully embraced it and became the Butcher. Those thoughts cause her to start turning again, but Monago calls out to her, snapping her out of it, which is good because the blasphemy was a split second away from killing her before she could even become one. Monago tells Fordola that she doesn't get to give up and turn. Even though she's done horrible things, if she lives, she can make up for them. If she dies now, she'll always be nothing more than the Butcher. It's obvious that she doesn't want that, and it becomes even more clear when Arnval shows up. Even though he can't fight, he still plans on being there to support his friend in any way that he can. While it's true that Fordola did do some terrible things, Raban tells her that the Alamegans did play a part in who she and her friends became, and they'll start fixing that by putting down Charlotte. Facing off against the Warrior of Light, the Bull of Alamigo, and Fordola, the blasphemy never had a chance. But when Charlotte dies, the Echo lets Fordola see him and her other friends return to the life stream. She thanks you for your help, something that is really out of character for her, and after she gives Arnval a high five, you all head back to the city where you're greeted like heroes. And this time, when Lily goes to talk to Fordola, her mother doesn't try to stop her. It turns out the casualties were pretty low during this whole ordeal. Charlotte, being non-violent, seemed to stick even after he transformed, and he never attacked any settlements. Even though he changed in the middle of a crowded area, the people who were hurt only got minor injuries. The only time he had even shown himself was when he was going to the spot where his brother had died. All of this had happened because the Alamegans hadn't accepted them. That's why Arnval's memorial ceremony is so important. It'll give the people they excluded in life the chance to be included in death. Ragnfrid wants to know if Fordola's gonna be there, but since she hasn't been ordered to, she can't. Since she's proven herself, Raban plans on getting her some more freedoms, including getting that collar off of her, and even Ragnfrid thinks that she deserves it. And those few words from him finally makes the woman smile. With the mission completed, the Warrior of Light heads back to Razad Han to let them know that the creature is dead, and to get prepared for whatever comes next. This concludes the story of the Healer role quest. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and leave a comment. Donate to the channel if you can, and I'll see you all next time.